Turner Network Television proudly presents the 1986 Goodwill Games from Moscow and from Madrid. Brought to you by Pepsi. When it comes to taste and refreshment, time after time, it's Pepsi, the choice of a new generation. By Budweiser, Beechwood aids for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. And by new Kodacolor VRG film, with color as realistic as the color of life.
And by CNN, the world's most important network and a proud sponsor of the Goodwill Games.
And now, here is the host of the 1986 Goodwill Games. From Moscow, Bob Neal.
Welcome to our late night coverage of Day 14 of the Goodwill Games of 1986. On our late night program tonight, Kurt Gowdy will be joining me for the entire hour. Among other things, we're going to be talking to Kurt about fishing in the Soviet Union. He's been fishing everywhere. Now he's already been fishing here in the Soviet Union, which doesn't surprise me or I don't think anybody very much. We're also going to be taking a look at team handball. U.S. men's team has been surprisingly good. Matter of fact, they've qualified for the first medal ever in international play by a U.S. team handball team. We'll also have a report from Tallinn Bay and yachting. So we have a lot to come your way on the late night edition of Day 14 Goodwill Games. Stay with us. Of all the segments that I've enjoyed in my many hours on the air now covering the Goodwill Games, it's been my chats on the late night show with Kurt Gowdy. We've always had a good time. I enjoy your stories. The figure skating proved to be a smash boffo hit here in the Goodwill Games. The crowds were spectacular, packed. The people at home enjoyed watching it. And one of the things I wanted to ask you right off the top about that, Kurt, is that it's exhibition. We did not have competition. They were not keeping score. What's your observation about, from a fan's viewpoint, about having the world champion competition skaters, but instead of performing for scores, performing in an exhibition?
You might have seen a better show, because the skaters go out there loosey-goosey and ready to go and do their own program, select their own music. They don't have to go by the short program and then really the freestyle. And they're champions, and they want to look good out there. They're performers. So they tried their best, but like Debbie Thomas did a comedy routine like she'd never skated before and fell over the railing, and I didn't think the Soviets would get it, and boy, they really came up with a great sense of humor on it. So figure skating is a wonderful television visual sport anyway. The women like it, and it's got grace and beauty, a lot of athletic skills. But these people put on a great show out there in 2 nights, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I enjoyed it more than I did watching the Olympic figure skating, which is great. But I enjoyed it more because of the variety and the routines and things like that. And remember, they hadn't trained much this summer, but they went out there and they were really anxious to please the Soviet audience and our television audience.
Next assignment for you in the Goodwill Games will be rowing. That's going to happen actually on Sunday at a beautiful rowing facility out on the west side of Moscow. I know that you've had experience covering Olympic rowing. If you're talking to somebody who's not familiar with rowing enough to be an expert in it, what would you tell them that you liked about it when you first started and got involved in covering it?
I did the rowing in the Olympics in Los Angeles. I'd never seen a rowing event before. I'd always read about the rowing on the Thames and the Yale, Harvard, and all this. And rowing was a big sport in this country. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, it used to get 60,000, 70,000 out for rowing events, and it was derived from the English, you know. It was very popular in England. And then it sort of went into decline where the Ivy League schools in California and University of Washington had great rowing crews. I researched the 32 Olympics, Bob. I did a story for a magazine on the comparison between 1932 and 1984. 78,000 watched the rowing in Los Angeles in 1932. The University of California crew represented us, but they had a tremendous crowd for it. So I went up to Dartmouth College where our team trained, spent some time up there, went to Los Angeles. The first thing that struck me about the rowers was their size. They looked like an NBA team. They're all 6'4", 6'5", 6'6".
Really big.
Great arm length, and that's to get the leverage, the tremendous leverage. Then the next thing that impressed me was their bodies. I've never seen stronger people in my life. You know, the rowing now has become a great aerobic, those rowing machines in your home. They're in marvelous condition. And the third thing that impressed me, I am convinced that they are the true amateurs of sports in America. And I was going to write a magazine article on it, and David Halberstrom, the author, beat me to it. He wrote a book called The Real Amateurs. Yeah. There were 5 rowers in our United States 8 team that had master's degrees. And there's no money in it.
In it for the pure love of the sport,
pure
literally.
love. There's not a dime in it for them. They're real amateurs, real competitors. But it was their size, their strength, their great bodies, and their love of the sport that really struck me. We were upset. Canada won the 8 gold. We should have won it, but we were upset by the Canadians. Give them credit. But our women won the big ship, the 8s in the women's division. And then I saw one of the great athletes of the world. He's not here, Karppinen of Finland, who has won, I think, 4 gold medals now in single sculls. Wow. He is about 6'6". And the most powerful man I've ever seen, and nobody can even come close to him. He's going, I understand, for a 5th gold medal in Seoul.
88.
Yeah.
Speaking of rowing, the only rowing I know is rowing out to bass fish. Actually, I use a motor now.
I can never keep the boat straight.
But speaking of fishing, I said you've been fishing in the Soviet Union. It's not exactly true. You haven't exactly been fishing yet, but you are a little later in this program going to offer a piece about fishing here. Give us a hint, but don't give it away yet.
Well, the hint is that there are 3 people over here from Trout Unlimited. That's a national organization like Ducks Unlimited to preserve trout fishing, not only in America now, the world. And they've been going through negotiations with the Soviets to open up fishing in the Soviet Union for Americans to come over here. Got to be some great streams. Well, there's got to be, and I'm going to tell you about the strange fish over here. And also to invite the Soviets to come to American fish. And they went to the State Department, they've gone through the Soviets here. And the Soviets have a great knowledge and kept knowledge of scientific experiments in fish and wildlife. There's a lot of great hunters here over here, you know. Brezhnev was a hunter. They have the boar and the stags over here and the bears and like that. So I think this will be good, and we'll talk more about it.
We'll have it a little bit later in the show. Kurt will be with us the entire hour. We're going to come back and take a look at the team handball picture in the Goodwill Games right after this. Stay with us. Team handball squad has been a very pleasant surprise for U.S. fans. As I think we mentioned earlier in our coverage of the Goodwill Games, team handball is second in Eastern Europe only to soccer in popularity. It is not very popular in the United States in terms of economic support, financial support. The teams have to really look hard into other sports to even recruit athletes to play team handball. It's kind of a combination of soccer, of basketball, a little bit of the moves that you might see in hockey. It's played on a court like basketball. You run some, dribble some, throw the ball into the goal. You have a goalie much like soccer, just to familiarize you a bit in case you haven't seen it. The United States men's team, in the history of international play at major tournaments, had never won an international medal, and they have qualified for that now. So we thought we would regroup the entire team handball picture and have Craig Sager offer you this report on team handball. Team handball took place really at 2 places. We're going to visit a venue of one of the 2. This is the CSCA. That's the Red Army Sports Complex, is in the northwest area of Moscow. They also played at a place called the Dynamo Stadium. But let's go now for our report on team handball to Craig Sager.
Game 1, the United States holding on to a slim 1-goal lead over Czechoslovakia, 22-21.
These are tense moments.
Tossing the ball. And what a shot and a goal by Steve Goss.
The goalie never saw the ball, and that salts away the victory for the U.S.
Steve Goss puts it in with 19 seconds to play. The U.S. men with a 2-goal lead. All they have to do is hold on to this lead in the final seconds. What a shot by Steve Goss. Czechoslovakia, though, has time to come back and get a quick score and hope for a turnover and try to have the ball back. Here's a penalty shot coming up against Billy Kessler. And a kick saved by Kessler.
The 3rd penalty saved by Billy Kessler.
And that should do it. The United States men with the ball. Greg Marava looks up, and that's the end of the game. The U.S. men with a major upset, Peter.
Well, it is probably the best game that I've seen our team play, and it bodes very well for the rest of the tournament.
18 seconds to play in the game. The United States up 21-19. And the U.S. has the ball. That's McVeigh over to Buning. Buning coming in. He puts it up, and it's in. So Jimmy Buning scores with 5 seconds to play in the game.
3, 2,
that made it 22-19. That's the end of the game. Buning scoring just before the buzzer. The U.S. winning its second game in a row. Victories over Czechoslovakia and now Iceland. Arava to Jakovic. Jakovic around to the right side to Steve Goss in the corner to Joe Bay. Back to Goss. Goss to Jakovic. Jakovic takes the shot, and it's good. Bob Jakovic scores, and it's now 14-12.
Excellent. Bob Jakovic, the Russians are playing him to pass. They're giving him a little freedom, but Bob takes the ball. They're expecting the pass back, but Bob takes the shot instead and hits the inside left post.
There's Jakovic on the bench having a good time talking to Jimmy Buning.
And the Russian coach probably thinks that his goalie hasn't done such a good job. They put in back the #1 goalie who was very good in the first half.
Well, it's like in baseball, knocking out the pitcher, right? Has to give the United States some confidence. Tushkin drops it off to Vasilev. Back to Tushkin, and his shot is good. Put it in under the feet of Billy Kessler. And that makes it 15-12, the Soviet Union on top. The U.S. with a ball and a big advantage, but they are trailing 20-19. The pass goes into Story. The shot is blocked by Goliath. Garcia Javier, the U.S. coach, setting up the play. Now it goes to McVeigh. His shot is blocked by Goliath. We are seeing unbelievable goaltending. U.S. brings it back again. Let's see if he can block it again. Story tries, and he's blocked again. 3 shots in a row on goal, blocked by Goliath. Poland remains the lead, 20-19, and a big ovation from this crowd. A disappointing loss by the U.S. men to Poland, but not a disappointing tournament. The U.S. men still in the running for a medal, which would be their first ever in world competition.
It has been a great tournament for our team. They have played splendidly, and in spite of the loss, we are in medal contention. We have a bronze medal for sure, and we will have a silver medal unless the Polish team beats the Soviet Union, which is not all that likely.
And you're exactly right, Peter. The score is 25-17. The Soviet Union leading Poland, just over 2 minutes away from a silver medal for the United States.
As the Soviet team has come out playing to win, trying to go undefeated in this tournament. Their backcourt has been working. Their goalies have been outstanding.
There's a goal by Sergei Rybakov. That makes it now 26-17. This is a round-robin tournament. Rybakov gets the goal. The Soviet Union off to a big lead. And obviously having this game in control looks like a Soviet Union gold medal coming up.
And a silver medal for the United States, the first one ever.
The United States has been playing team handball since you introduced it in the country back in '59. Did you ever think it would take this long before the U.S. was competitive in world play?
We certainly hoped it wouldn't take that long, but now that we're there, we really are close to the top of the world. Our goals right now are the World Championship in Italy next February, the Pan American Games in August in Indianapolis, and then on to the Olympic Games in '88 in Seoul.
This is Poland with the ball. We mentioned a lot of the players throughout this tournament. Alexander Tushkin, the great one from the Soviet Union. He just turned 21 the other day. Why are our players so much older? Our players like 29, 30 years old.
It takes so long to get experience in handball. Our players I started with before the 1980 Olympic Games. They have is a veteran crew from the 1984 Games, and quite a few of them are ready to retire to go back to their normal working life. We are looking for players right now, young players, to replace the older ones, and we have a crew working at Colorado Springs, trying to give them international playing experience in the next year to have them ready for the Olympic Games.
These two teams you see right here, these players have been competing. There's a goal by number 9, Andrzej Maluszkiewicz, and that is a great assist by Leslie Zayuba from the Polish team. These guys have been playing this game for most of their lives, whereas our team members usually don't start until after their basketball careers over in college.
Yes, we try to pick them up. Most athletes that are good enough to play on our national team are varsity athletes in college, and so we get them after their college career is finished.
That's the end of the game. That goal doesn't count. The final, the Soviet Union winning the gold medal, 26-18, but more importantly, it means a silver medal for the United States, and there's Joe Story at 5'7", receiving the first medal ever for a U.S. athlete in handball.
Joe Story, the team captain, the oldest member of the team. He has been working very hard for this medal.
There's the rest of the team, goalkeeper Rado Shida, and Jimmy Buning, your son. That must be a proud moment for you as the father.
It certainly is.
Of course, you're proud of all these people. You've been working with them for years.
This has been a great team. Every member of the team has been working so hard. They're dedicated athletes. They're thinking nothing but being excellent in handball.
There's Greg Maraba. He was a former great player in high school and college in soccer and track. He made the transition. Scott Carlson as well. A great moment for the United States in handball. This was probably the surprise team, possibly the entire Goodwill Games.
We have surprised the world. The International Handball Federation just is amazed at the sudden rise of the U.S. Handball Federation.
The gold medal, of course, goes to the Soviet Union. The coaching staff from the United States, Javier Garcia Cuesta and Tor Holton. But the big story, the silver medal to the USA. Skills of running, passing, jumping, and shooting. And although she has only been playing the game for 3 years, Sam Jones of the United States has become one of the best players in the world.
Sam joined the Olympic program in '83, and her natural athletic ability made her the 5th highest scorer in the Olympic Games in '84 and the leading scorer in the Goodwill Games here in Moscow.
A former basketball player at East Carolina, she is now playing handball in Europe. From Mount Olive, North Carolina, to Leverkusen, West Germany, here's our Goodwill profile.
Handball was something new. I never heard of it before. And when people told me that if I made the national team, the national team would travel a lot to Europe because there are no teams strong enough to play against the national team in America, then I thought, okay, here I have a chance to play something new and to travel and see Europe also. Here it was, I had a chance to travel free. All I had to do was to learn to play handball better. A lot of people don't know about it, but everyone that sees it for the first time, they want to know, what is this? Why can we never see this on television? Or how can I play? How can I join someone's team? I like handball because of the way it's played. Well, handball is pretty physical, but it's just the fact of it's similar to basketball, and basketball was my love, except for now, whereas I was too physical in basketball, I'm not physical enough in handball, and this is a challenge for me to have to get more physical than I already was. I feel lonely a lot. I have a brother here in Kaiserslautern, and I try to go and visit him too, but even that's not enough to block out this loneliness. I'm missing most of the time in Germany my family and my friend, and then the way we live in America. Most of all, the food. The food is different. Most of the men here, I don't know if it's me or if it's normal, but they take a smile, a friendly smile, and I like to smile as a come and get me sign, or a go for me sign, or make your move. And this in America is normal, but many of the American men know, okay, that's a smile, but what kind of smile? The European women, to me, are more relaxed. The American women have an image to keep up. Everyone wants to look like a millionaire's daughter, or they want to act like a top secretary. And women all over the world, they want to look good, But in Germany, I've seen people, the women here, they wear bigger clothes, baggy clothes. For me to wear the clothes like they wear in Europe, to wear big clothes and feel comfortable is more important. Now, since I've been in Europe, I understand more. I understand a lot of things I didn't understand before because I never took time out to think about it. And since I've been in Europe, I've had time to think about my life a little bit more serious. And I figure if the U.S. team doesn't go to the Olympics in '88, then I would let handball go. I would let sports go overall. I will try and find work. My boyfriend has a little land, and his parents have land, and the way his family is set up, they farm the land together. So I will not be a direct farm wife, but if it comes to that, then I'm sure I would help out on the farms, naturally.
And here in this initial Goodwill game, Sam Jones has showcased her talents to the rest of the world as well.
She has had a great tournament. After 2 years with the U.S. Olympic team, a year playing in Austria, a year playing in Germany, she is now one of the top players in the world, and at this time leading the tournament with 31 goals.
U.S. women close out the competition against West Germany, a team that is excellent, especially in defense.
Yes, it's a very tough team. These girls play every week, real hard. They have a big league, and our girls here will be severely tested, but they have told me this is the game they're really going to hang in there.
Final 3 minutes of the first half. West Germany 6, the United States 6. West Germany with the ball. Blatton drops it off out front to Erbs. Erbs into the circle runner.
Oh,
Schmidt.
this was nice defense. It was clean on the ball.
Well, the official disagrees, Peter, and they're going to have a penalty shot coming up for West Germany.
Hope the replay shows it, but maybe we can't see it. Now Laura comes out. Let's see what they...
And the shot is good by Dagmar Stelberg. So West Germany regains the lead with 2 minutes, 24 seconds to play in the first half.
A nice, clean penalty shot. She makes Laura react and then puts it into the lower left-hand corner. Laura doesn't have a chance. A very good shot.
West Germany 7, the United States 6. A little over 2 minutes to play in the first half. Latner to Christoph, to Della Riva, to Kim Clark. Kim Clark back to Della Riva, cross court to Christoph, now to Mo Latner. Della Riva dribbling in the middle to Sam Jones. Sam Jones throws it out to Christoph. And now to Latner. Latner to Christoph. She winds up and fires it off the goalkeeper. Out of bounds, U.S. gets the ball.
It's a pretty tough shot from that angle.
Kim Clark on the corner to Latner. Latner spinning, trying to get away from Pfister. Not able to. Brings it out front to Della Riva. Della Riva to Kim Clark. Back to Della Riva. She gets a pick from maybe Gamble, but her shot is too high. A minute and a half to play in the first half. West Germany has the lead 7-6, and the ball in it goes, and a nice shot by Manuela Schmidt.
We have to, it's quite obvious, we have to avoid the bad shots. The fast break of the West Germans is their only weapon at this time, and they have executed practically every time that they had a chance, except for the good save by Laura Conan on the previous one. Good shooting. I mean, the patient offense is the key to the success of our team here.
Kim Clark takes the shot. It's blocked. And West Germany has the ball. Less than a minute to play in the first half. West Germany has the lead, 8-6. Has the ball as well. The shot is by Stelberg, and it's off target.
Laura came out very nicely and cut down the angle and forced the ball to miss the goal.
U.S. with the ball, 40 seconds to play first half, needing a goal. They're down by 2, 8-6. Della Riva to Kim Clark. Back to Della Riva. Della Riva to Lisa Christoph. Now to Maureen Latner. Latner drops it off for Christoph. And Klaus Helgren, the coach in the United States, calling out the play. Latner out front to Della Riva to Kim Clark. Clark takes the shot. It is good. Kim Clark scoring for the U.S.
Beautiful shot. Here, he says patience pays off. You have to make the defense work. Wait for the open, wait for the good opportunity, and then put it in. It's 9 seconds to go in the first half.
Wagner with the ball for West Germany. Wagner brings it out front to Erbs. Erbs to Stelberg, now to Wagner. And his shot is not going to count. It was after the buzzer. So the United States cutting the lead down to 1 for West Germany. And at the half, it's West Germany 8, the U.S. 7. But in the second half, it was a different story. The experience of West Germany paid off. Sam Jones of the United States scored the final goal, but it was 19-13 in favor of West Germany. But all in all, Peter, the United States women performed very well.
It was a good tournament for our team. They came here with under a little handicap, missing their #1 goalie and their left backcourt, Cindy Stinger, but they acquitted themselves very well. They got better from game to game. They're going to be practicing in Colorado Springs for the next 2 years, getting ready for these Olympic Games in Seoul, and we're looking forward to having a good team there.
The silver goes to West Germany, the gold to the Soviet Union, and the bronze to Hungary.
The Hermitage Art Gallery in Leningrad is the largest museum in the world.
Moscow and the city of Moscow and the feeling about Moscow in a few words is very difficult. Everybody always says, what's Moscow really like? Well, there's one word that really helps, and one thing most of us have noticed here in Moscow is the scale of things. Practically everything is big, and in some cases, huge. CNN's Richard Blystone made a quick tour of the city to see just how big can be.
This must be one of the last remaining places on Earth where they don't show Dallas on television. But as you can see, there's a lot of Texas in this town. In fact, Moscow is 6 square miles bigger than Dallas, and the idea that small is beautiful hasn't got here yet. From 3.5 miles away, the great horned profile of Moscow University looks like it's just eaten the Lenin Hills and is looking around for more. It has 19 lecture halls, 6,000 dorm rooms, and so many other facilities you could live your whole life here and never go outdoors. There are 6 more of the same kind thrusting up through the Moscow skyline. Muscovites call them Stalin's wedding cakes. And while only the most preoccupied person would mistake one for the Taj Mahal, you got to admit they're big. The Soviet Union is big, 11 time zones worth of wide open spaces, and they're trying to fill her up. Where else in Europe will you find LA's idea of what an alleyway ought to look like? They don't hold naval maneuvers here, it's too shallow. But it's still the world's biggest swimming pool, 143 yards across. At half a gallon a day, it would take you 84 lifetimes to drink it. But why drink it when you can swim in it all year round at a cozy 80 degrees? The Soviets just like things big, like economy-size weightlifter Vasily Alexeyev. And the titanic superhero statues around town that make Captain Marvel look like Mighty Mouse. The TV transmission tower, tallest structure east of the Atlantic. The Arbat restaurant can seat 2,000 big eaters at the same time. The world's biggest airplane. The Wright brothers' first flight could have taken place inside this baby. From Red Square, the walk over to the Rosia Hotel is a toddle compared to the hike to your room, one of, count 'em, 3,058 in the world's biggest hostelry. Of all the things the Soviets have been accused of, thinking small isn't one of them. 1,500 folk dancers put in 250,000 practice hours for the opening ceremony of the Goodwill Games, not to mention the 1,200 gymnasts or the 11,000 high school girls who were happily drafted for the grandstand picture show. There's no doubt about it, the biggest thing happening in this big town these days is happening right here. For the Goodwill Games, I'm Richard Blystone.
Talk about big. You were talking about big, the Hermitage. I think you said your wife had a chance to visit it.
My wife went up 2 nights ago and got back last night.
In Leningrad.
In Leningrad. She commented what a beautiful city it was. It's a lot of European. Peter the Great wanted the Western fashion and styles brought in. But yesterday, I said, how'd you enjoy it? She said, well, Kurt, it's wonderful, but there were 40,000 people went through it.
40,000 in one day?
In one day. 40,000 people, one group after another group from all over Europe. And I'm a trustee of the Buffalo Bill Historical Society in Cody, Wyoming. We have a great Western museum there, the best in the West. We sent our Western art to the Hermitage about 6 or 8 years ago.
No kidding.
And I was supposed to go and unfortunately couldn't go. They stood in line to see our Western art. They loved the Russells and Remingtons and Scrivogles and the cowboys, the Indians, and the West. It was one of the most popular shows, they told the Americans that the Hermitage has ever had.
Well, you know, there must be cowboys, obviously, in some portions of rural Soviet Union.
Well, they look a little different, but
a little bit different.
they
Wear different
cowboys.
hats. I got such a kick out of the opening ceremonies when you and I were sitting together. As a matter of fact, at the circus when they had the cowboys come out. Those were good riders.
That's right. Well, was it, those people, the Cossacks, and famous horse riders here in this country.
Yeah, the Seattle Organizing Committee for the 1990 Games, one of the events that they're hoping to add to the Games, it's a long way off to decide whether to add it, but is equestrian, simply because there are so many places and people who enjoy that. We're going to take a quick break right here, but we'll come right back. Kurt Gowdy will stay with us. We're also going to talk about Kurt's fishing experience and the Soviet Union opening up to fishing in just a little bit, so you please stay with us. I just had this urge to say live from Moscow. It's Friday night. I don't know, it sounds like a good name of a program. I hope you're having a good time tonight. We're in our 14th day of coverage of the Goodwill Games. This is our late night edition. And one of the sports that we're covering is the very beautiful sport of yachting. And it's in a venue about 500 miles northwest of here called Tallinn Bay. It's on the Baltic Sea. We're going to go there now for another report on yachting with Gary Jobson.
The Soviets and Americans in the star class have had a great match race battle. In the second race, the Americans won by 1 length, but 2 races later, the Soviets came right back to even the score. Yesterday, the Americans won 1 more race to go up 3-2, which led into today's final. The American sailors had to win a major championship earlier this year to qualify for the Goodwill Games, sailing at the sailing center called Pirita in Tallinn, Estonia. The American team is young, but they have gained their experience in junior yacht club programs and on college sailing teams. In addition to the sailors on the U.S. team, there are 2 coaches, 2 managers, a shipwright, and a sports psychologist. The winds off Tallinn were slow to come in this morning, but when they came in a big way. The Americans stand a good chance of winning a medal in 3 classes with strong performances today, in the 470, Star, and Soling classes, while their Soviet rivals stand to win gold medals with a good race in the Tornado, Finn, and Flying Dutchman classes. Once again, Americans Morgan Reeser and Kevin Burnham got off to a slow start in the men's 470 division today. As the fleet left the gate, you can see Reeser and Burnham to the right, well behind the leaders. This is the 4th straight race Reeser has given his 16 competitors a substantial head start. The boats came alive today in good winds as they sped for the first mark. But Reeser was more concerned with the placement of his boat on the course, looking for favorable wind than boat speed. Sometimes sailors get so wrapped up in their quest for speed, they forget where they're heading. With 3 wins under their belt, the Americans sailed brilliantly by playing the shifting winds to their advantage. Just 4 miles later, at the 3rd mark of the course, Reeser and Burnham were again leading, astounding the local host. The lead flip-flopped for a while. Here the Canadians at the 4th mark take the lead just ahead of the Americans. But the race wasn't over yet. While Brazil split with the fleet and won the race, Reeser and Burnham covered their main rivals closely and finished 2nd today and won the first gold medal of the Goodwill Games in Tallinn. After they finish, they explain how they won. Morgan Reeser, Kevin Burnham, congratulations. You've won the first gold medal here at the Goodwill Games. But once again, you were behind at the start. How did you catch up by the first mark?
Well, once we get behind so quick, we really have to kind of pull the buckle down and really concentrate real hard to catch up, and we did that once again.
Kevin, is this a kind of special strategy that you guys have?
I don't know what Morgan was thinking, but the Australian came underneath us and jammed us head to wind and forced us on the port, and we tacked back on the starboard when we had clean air and had the inside lift and good boat speed and played the shifts and got to the weather marking first.
I noticed the Australians have a protest flag. Does that relate to you?
We sure hope not. No, we didn't do anything. Definitely not.
The wind seemed pretty shifty out there today. How did you keep track of it?
They were swinging back and forth about 15 degrees, and we just stayed on the lifts most of the time, tried to stay off those headers.
A bunch of fleets in front of us, which was a big help, the FDs and some of the 470 fleets that started after us.
Mathematically, you can't lose the games now.
No problem at all.
Are you going to sail tomorrow?
I don't think we will. We've made a habit of not sailing the last race, so we'll keep doing that.
At the start of the Flying Dutchman class, Soviets Alexander Shpilko and Viktor Budnichev left the fleet in the dust. Hungary on the left tried to sail against the grain and cross the fleet on port tack, but the boats on starboard with the right-of-way forced Hungary to tack. At the third mark, the East Germans, in second place now, rounded just ahead of the Americans, J.B. Braun and Bill Kenny, who rounded just ahead of the Canadians. It was a close contest. The Soviets sailed over the horizon and easily won their 5th race in 6 starts to take the 2nd gold medal of the day. The Americans got their 4th and will go home with the silver. Kenny gave Braun a high five right after the finish. Yowza! Tension was high at the start of the Star Class race today. The Americans in the white boat on the left took a slim lead after the start. The Soviets split tacks and the Americans covered closely. The Americans enjoy sailing in light winds like they had here off Tallinn today and slowly gained as they went to the windward mark. At the first mark, skipper Mark Reynolds and his crew Henry Sprague led by over 1 minute, the equivalent of a 21-0 score at the end of the first quarter in a football game. The U.S. stretched its lead and crossed the finish line a comfortable 3.5 minutes ahead to take the gold medal. The Americans were happy with their 2nd gold medal of the day. The Soviets settled for 2nd, but enjoyed the match racing. We talked with the Americans after the race.
I'm just glad it's over with because we really weren't looking forward to sailing against him in heavy air. We feel fortunate that the wind was light and we were able to do good.
Yes, Henry, the Americans did do well, winning a gold medal in the men's 470 class and the Star class, while the Soviets did well to win a gold medal in the Flying Dutchman.
Oh, Kurt Gowdy, what do you think of yachting?
You know, I wish I had become a sailor. I live in Boston. I have a great sailing club there. I never learned to sail. They call it the thinking man's sport. It's a wonderful sport.
That'd make it a problem for me right off.
Well, you'd be out, that's right.
Oh, well, okay then. We were talking about fishing and your piece that you've done on fishing. I think the best thing to do is go to that and take a look at it. Then we have a little time to talk about it.
Talk about it, yeah.
Kurt's been stirring up fishing here in Moscow. Let's take a look at it now.
Tell him when he casts, he's got to stop on that back cast a little more. You don't just go like this, see? You got to stop up there and get a high back cast like that, see? Up, over. This is Comrade Yulitin Rasahot Rybolov Soyuz. He is chairman of the All-Russian Federation of the Hunters and Fishermen in the Soviet Union. And to go along with the process now, endorsed by President Reagan and Secretary General Gorbachev, of course, we're trying to open up cultural relations between the United States and the Soviet Union in all phases of life. And for the first time, they're going to open up fishing in the Soviet Union to Americans. Trout Unlimited is a national organization dedicated to preserving trout fishing worldwide. The new president, Red Pittak from Wenatchee, Washington, is excited about the negotiations with the Soviets.
The people I've met are very eager for us to come in with our technology. They've never seen a fly rod before. They're all wanting to learn how to use it. And I think that overall we're going to cement relations between us and the citizens of Russia.
I understand you fellows are going to come back and go to Siberia for some fish I never heard of.
That's right, Kurt. We'll be back in October, and it's called the taimen, which is the largest trout species in the world. We're told it averages 40 pounds, and they've gotten them up to 140 pounds, if you can believe that.
Can you imagine a 140-pound member of the trout family? There's so much that we can share that so far has been limited. Not only are the major international sports exploited by politics, but so too are cultural exchanges and wildlife endeavors. It's time for a change. Piece of cake.
They're dying for information and for exchange programs. They have been attempting for years to make contact with their colleagues in the United States, and I understand that the Americans have been trying to contact them. They've been working through the government agencies of both countries, and that hasn't worked. Our two countries aren't speaking with each other very much. So private individuals can come over here and we can get something accomplished, and then both of us can go to our governments and get approval for what we want to do anyway.
More and more, the Soviet Union, the United States, are opening up cultural and people-to-people relations in the arts, sports, culture. And now we're going to open up relations in fishing. Not only the fisheries, but the scientific information will be exchanged between the two countries. It's rather in the spirit of the Goodwill Games.
Well, did you catch anything is the question.
No, I didn't, haven't had a chance.
You're going to be straight with it. You're coming clean with us about it, huh?
But Bob, this taimen they're talking about, I never heard of the fish, and it's over in Siberia in big rivers. And I asked this Lundy from Denver, I said, what does it look like? And he said, it's got a head like a snake. And I said, that's a trout? I said, it can't be. He said, it's a member of the trout family, but they get very big. But they've got to have some great salmon fishing in this country. They tell me that the rivers that dump into the White Sea have big runs of salmon, and big salmon, 30, 40-pound salmon. There must be some really good brown trout fishing somewhere, but nobody does it much here. We see them fish the Moscow River for perch and carp. I'm talking about sport fishing, fly fishing. That's to be sport fishing. And I think this will open up here. And the hunting's good here. Now we get the fishing over here. You'll probably see some American tourists not only be here, but will be welcomed here.
Fascinating story. It's a new program. You had the American sportsman, could be the Soviet sportsman. Somebody could be a Kurt Gotti right here in the Soviet Union. It's time for our phrase of the day, our Goodwill trivia phrase. This one is pronounced siestna miel. Siestna miel. And I'll give you the answer of siestna miel. It's something that I can relate to right after we return. Stay with us. Okay, the phrase is siestna miel, and that's literally translated, it is to sit on a sandbar, which is the Russian way to say, I'm broke. Kurt Gotti, you couldn't possibly relate to that, but every now and then some sportscasters have had to say siestna miel.
I couldn't. I've been on a lot of sandbars in my life.
Kurt, it has been, we're about out of time for our late night show. It has been great having you come on the late night show. I've enjoyed getting to know you and listen to your observations about these games.
I've enjoyed being with you. You're kind of a man that you can really talk to and have some fun with, Bob.
Great, Kurt. That's a high compliment. We'll look forward to seeing you at the rowing and closing ceremonies.
Good.
And we'll see you tomorrow for Day 15 coverage of the Goodwill Games. Please see us then. So long.